Hello and welcome to another episode of E-commerce Joe. In today's episode, I'm speaking with Daniel Little, who is the co-founder of Link My Books, which is a software which connects Amazon and your bookkeeping platform. The interview with Daniel is really inspirational. We speak with him about his entire e-commerce journey, how he's gone from being an Amazon seller, selling his business, becoming friends with a competitor, forming another Amazon business with him, and then selling that business before finally starting a software company. I really enjoyed the conversation with Daniel. I hope you do too. I hope you enjoy the episode, and if you enjoyed it, please leave a like and don't forget to subscribe. So, Daniel, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. Thanks for having me.
As I said, we're going to kind of record an introduction at the beginning, but in case I miss anything important, would you like to give a quick summary of yourself and Link My Books?
Myself, so I'm Daniel Little. I'm the co-founder of Link My Books, ex-multi-million-pound Amazon seller. I was just telling Joe here that I've actually had two businesses through FBA and built up and sold both of those on. Now starting a software as a service company, or starting 2 years ago we started it. Basically to serve a niche that we saw in the market, in that Amazon accounting is genuinely difficult. There's a lot of moving parts and a lot of things that people can fall into. We know that, we've experienced those headaches as sellers ourselves, both myself and my partner Pete. And so we decided to make something that would serve that niche and also at a competitive price, because there was people out there doing a poor job who was charging a lot of money. So we just felt like there was an opportunity in the market.
And for people who are watching this or listening to this that haven't got a clue about Amazon selling, or haven't heard of Link My Books, what actually is it that it does?
Okay, so what we always think about is we work with Amazon and eBay, also Shopify and Etsy are in the pipeline, and we also work with Xero and QuickBooks. So on the source side, you've got Amazon and eBay. And on the destination side, you've got Xero and QuickBooks. And we are the bit that sits in between. So we basically pull all the information in terms of sales, refunds, fees, VAT, everything from Amazon and eBay. And then we format those, process them, apply your tax and account settings that you've chosen within Link My Books. And then we create nice, easy summary invoices that then go across to Xero or QuickBooks, which means that your job is ultimately to, when you see the money coming in on the bank, you basically click OK on the little match button within inside Xero, or it matches up automatically within QuickBooks to the invoice that we've created. So it makes your accounting completely automated.
And for anyone listening that doesn't know what QuickBooks and Xero are, they're bookkeeping platforms where you put all of your data, where you prepare your accounts each year. But hopefully if you're listening to this, you've started your business and you should have a decent accountant who will have explained all of that to you. Link My Books, I've said this to you, I think before, but it's a great name. It says kind of what it does. Were there any close contenders when you were actually naming this? Could it have been called something else?
I think we actually, Pete and myself actually toyed with the idea of going down sort of like a moon pig or funky pigeon style route, where we're looking at we listed off a load of describing adjectives and a load of animal names and put them together. And we thought that if we became a big enough brand out there, that just like you would moon pig a card, that we would become a brand name in the arena. But ultimately, we also had this other list of ideas of words that were associated to accounting and sort of connecting things. And that was the one that won, was Link My Books. The domain name was available in both UK and .com, and the trademark was available worldwide. So we just pushed ahead and went with that. And I think ultimately it was probably the right decision, because as you say, it does sort of almost tell you what it does without actually telling you what it does.
Yeah, and I kind of don't want to push your competitors too much, but there's one giant competitor you've got, A2X, and I'm not their biggest fan. However, their name I thought was great as well, because they connected Amazon and Xero and they called themselves A2X. But I feel like they've kind of shot themselves in the foot though there, because as you've said, you're now doing eBay, you're thinking about doing Etsy, you're thinking about doing Shopify. I feel like that doesn't really go if you're trying to say, well, Amazon, like Shopify to Xero or Shopify to QuickBooks. The name just doesn't really fit. So yeah,
I completely agree. I think that obviously we do have competitors out there, and I think that A2X is a great company. I think that originally they did start with Amazon to Xero, and that's obviously where the name came from. But yeah, you're right. I think that Link My Books, it then gave us the opportunity to then expand out, which we knew we were going to do. We also started with Amazon to Xero just because we used Xero personally and we had lots of experience in Amazon. But the plan was always to grow out into this sort of like source and destination based method, looking at what other things we can connect up. And that's where we sort of like brainstormed a load of words around connecting things and linking things. And that's where Link My Books came from. Plus, we wanted it to be like, we've got a good sort of British or UK heritage in terms of the company's a UK company. We are both British people who we've moved abroad now, actually live in Sweden, and Pete lives in Australia. But we were always trying to focus on the UK businesses to begin with. And therefore, they use the word books a lot, like putting stuff into your books. And it just sort of like, it made sense to almost use that. So maybe that came from there as well.
Yeah, so where did the idea of Link My Books come from?
So again, this is sort of like a funny story because Pete and I we started off as competitors on Amazon. And so I sold fitness products and he sold fitness products as well. And we were competing on a couple of products, and I was aware of him as a brand, but I wasn't aware of him as a person. And then one day he reached out to me by email, and basically we had a third competitor, which was like completely ruining the marketplace, like doing mass review manipulation, like totally like dropping prices randomly. It was just like they weren't a like fair competitor basically. And so he reached out to me, like basically complaining about this other competitor. And we became sort of like friends around the fact that we were friends of a mutual enemy sort of thing. And so we ended up talking a bit more, and then we realized that we're both about to launch exactly the same product. And we agreed that from now on, we're just sort of like, as soon as we started finding a product, we would just give the other person a heads up so that we didn't have to compete on everything. And that sort of like grew into a bigger and bigger friendship. And then he lived in London and I lived in Newcastle at the time. And he was part of a group, Danny McMillan's group. He runs like a little private, like high-end sellout group sort of thing. And he invited me to go along to a couple of their meetings. And that's when I first met him. And then we just sort of like joked at the time, like, oh, we could probably do a business together one day, not necessarily an Amazon business, but something around Amazon. And then when I came to sell my business, or when I was thinking about doing it, I'd already thought that like some of the competitors in our marketplace, in terms of the bookkeeping side of things, weren't doing a very good job, and we could do a better job, or I could do a better job. And so I joked with Pete and said, like, you know, when I sell my business, should we just start something and we can make a better version of this, focus it on the UK market and make it more price competitive, do a better job of accounting for VAT and all the EU, pan-EU and everything. And then we can like mop up the UK marketplace. And he sort of like brushed it off at the time. And then I sort of like pushed the idea forward and like did a bit more research, and then approached him probably 4 or 5 more times saying like, come on, let's just do it, man. It'll be easy. Let's just do it. And I think he was thinking like in a technical way, because he's the dev in the team. And he was always thinking like how much work this was going to be. And I was thinking about all the money we could make and like how easy it would be to do sort of thing. And eventually I convinced him. And then that's how it started, basically, that we started off with that sort of idea. And it just sort of like grew and grew and grew and grew until we got to the point where we are now, like sort of 2 years on. So it's funny how you can meet people like that.
Yeah, it's amazing how you can just make a friend who's actually your competitor, because I imagine that would be quite worrying. Like if a competitor just reached out and started being nice to you, I'm quite cynical, so I'd be like, what does this guy want? Like they're gonna try and screw me over. They're gonna try and like get me done for that, implicate me in something.
Yeah. I mean, it's so weird, I think, because he made like a brand new email on Yahoo or something, or Google, and then he emailed me to my brand email that he'd found on the website. And then he said he didn't want to reveal who the competitor was, just in case I owned that brand as well. And he's like super cautious. So I think we were a bit cautious in the beginning, but we soon got on the phone. I just said, listen, let's just talk on the phone. and then like there's nothing left in sort of like a trail, so to speak. And I think once the trust was there, we just became really good friends. So
that's such a cool story. I like it. And
yeah.
I meant to ask, so when did you actually start selling on Amazon? Like, what's the sort of time frame of this? Because it's 2021 now.
Yeah. So I started in 2014 or 2015, maybe in 2015, I think, early 2015. I was working as a drug rep, like selling medicines to doctors. Had a decent salary. I had a Mercedes-Benz company car. I was like living the dream at the age that I was. Thought it was really good. And then one of my friends had an eBay business, and he sold like mobile phone cases on eBay, and he'd like basically done that from out of school. He started in his bedroom, and now he had like a shop, and he was selling like all over the world. And I like had the entrepreneurial spirit throughout my life, and sort of like felt like I was missing out on something, like, you know, to say trading your time for money and all that. And so I spoke to him and sort of like picked his brain, and he said, you know, if I was starting again, then I probably would start on Amazon and do something called private label. And then that sort of like just spurred me down this little route that I started looking into. And like did the usual thing, watched a load of YouTube videos, and then basically put my first order for my first products from my first business on a credit card, and just started from there. And so then I grew that one up, and after about 3 or 4 months of sort of like getting the initial order in and doing some initial sales and sort of proving the concept, I then did the Amazing Selling Machine course. And I think that was a funny story as well, because I remember sitting in their webinar, and they're based in the US, and it was like probably 11 o'clock at night. And my wife had like stayed up as much as she could, and then she went to bed. And then I sat up and watched this webinar. And then I remember like tiptoeing up to bed and saying, I know you said not to, but I bought the course. It was like $5,000. I'm really sorry. I don't know what I did. And she like was going absolutely mental. And we joke about that now, and like looking back thinking, you know, I was like the best $5,000 we ever spent, because it like took our life from like going down one path to going down a completely different path we would never have achieved if I'd just been continuing to work in a job. So I did that. That was Amazing Selling Machine 6. And then that like completely exponentially grew the first brand to the point where after 18 months, I did the usual thing where you watch all the podcasts and videos, and there was one guy who was talking about selling his business, and he was running the maths and saying like, if I continue to run the business as it is now, it's going to take me X number of years to make the amount of money that I would make if I just sold it now. And I did the same thing. I put it into a spreadsheet and just thought, well, I've got me 10% entrepreneurs relief tax. So this is how much I'll get after tax if I sell it for this much money. And if I need to earn that, then the money that I'm taking out of the business every month, which I was just like wiping out the profits basically, I'll have to take that out for like 7 more years. So I'm definitely not going to do that. So I then sold the first brand, and then took the money from that to then start the second brand. And that would have been early 2016, or maybe late 2016, I think. Because then the second one I ran for like 2.5 years, and I basically just did exactly the same thing again. So then I sold that in October 2018. And while I was in the process of thinking about selling that, I was starting Link My Books. So I never really had a period where I like did nothing. So I'm not that type of person. Like I can't just sit at home and do nothing. I have to be busy with something. So yeah, so that's sort of the journey, so to speak.
It's amazing to hear that you actually were on ASM 6, because I think me and my business partners were on ASM 2. And when we did it, I remember the doubt, like the amount of money at the time. I think it was £3,500. So that's probably about the $5,000. And my business partner, Eddie, mentioned it to me. He was like, we were at the gym. I remember it really clear. Like, he'd just spent this money on this course. And I was like, you've spent how much money on an online course? Like, are you mad? And he was like, well, if you want to do it, you can watch it with me. But like, if you've got savings, because I had some money set aside, and this was kind of just shortly after uni when I had my first job. I was like, well, if you put the money in for the business, like I've paid for the course, and then if we make it, you know, it's 50-50. I was like, yeah, that seems good. And looking back, like you said, if we hadn't done that course, if he hadn't done that, my life would be so different, because, you know, like we did that. It was like 2012, 2013 when we did that. And it's just mad. And like what I was saying about you being on the sixth one, when they then announce, every cohort, every like 6 months or a year, where they'd be like, oh, another group are coming through, I'd be like, oh, it's going to die. There's going to be so many people flood in, they're going to copy it. And it's still going strong. Like the amount
of about 12 now, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. And it's just such a mad business model. I mean, I think it's definitely more difficult because the launch strategies have changed a lot. Like for us, we hustled like a massive list of like 5,000 people, and then just did that like free coupon giveaway where we just blasted out to people, and you'd rank. And it's Amazon kind of clamped down on that now. How did you guys launch? Were you doing the sort of black hat things that I know Danny McMillan and that sort of crowd, some of them tout them and some are kind of, they call themselves grey hat?
I never did anything black hat, because I always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to sell the business, and I knew that if I was a buyer of a business, that'd be the first question I would ask: have you done anything black hat? So I didn't do any. I didn't do like completely white hat stuff, because that doesn't work either. I sort of like lived in between, where I did stuff that was brushing the borderlines of Amazon terms of service, but never overstepping them. So for example, we would do things like would run Facebook ads and would give away like coupons to a landing page. So you'd get people to basically go to the landing page, say if they were definitely interested in the product, and then if they were definitely interested in the product, grab their email address, send them like a one-time coupon, and then send them across to a specific link to make it look like they'd searched for the brand, they'd searched for the search term that you wanted them to search, and therefore then they were just going to go in and purchase. So it was like, to Amazon, it looked like someone had searched for it, they'd scrolled through and found your list and clicked into it, and then you had a high conversion. And all those things like ticked Amazon's boxes. And again, that was just something that came from Amazing, the company that runs Amazing Seller Machine. They ran like a private webinar, which was like $150 just to get into the webinar. And I'm one of those people that I get sold anything. So I joined the webinar. I was like, yeah, I'm giving them 5,000. Why not give them 150 more? And it was like, they made you sign a non-disclosure agreement when you came in. They didn't want to like get this out into the industry and all that, And I just thought, well, yeah, as soon as someone's going in, they're just literally going to copy it and whack it on the internet, but I'll at least know first. And so I did that, and that was where they taught you like the super URL technique sort of thing. I can't remember what they called it. They did something. It was like a specific thing where you basically like you searched your thingy, and then you clicked into it, and then you did something else, and then it created like this URL, and it made it look like it was a unique search to Amazon, basically.
Yeah, and that's where someone goes into Amazon, and let's say you're selling yoga mats. They search for yoga mats, and then might happen if you've just created the product, it might be on like page 70, and it makes it look like they've searched through 70 pages, found your one, and been like, that's a yoga mat. And then Amazon are like, oh, that must be a yoga mat. We'll push that up. We'll put,
and I think that type of thing doesn't work anymore. Like even when I launched probably 10 or 15 products throughout the life cycle of the second business. And I think that towards the end, it became more and more like difficult for that to work. And what you would end up having to do is something called search and buy instead, where you would basically like teach your customers who are interested in getting these products that you search for this, and then scroll down, and when you get onto page 4, we are like the 5th list, and then you just have to like almost manually like walk them through it. And it was like super effective, but it was a tedious process, but it was worth it. Like if you had to tell someone 100 times to do the same thing in order to get onto page 1, then so be it.
Yeah.
But then towards the end, even that started to be like less and less effective, because then you would get people like clicking the wrong things, and like they would click your sponsored ad instead. And like, so in the end, I actually just went with like basically just throw loads of money at it and just spend loads on sponsored ads on specific sets of keywords that are like exact match only, and then also run Facebook ads to like a landing page and then onto the listing, but with no coupon codes. And then what was the other thing I did? Something else as well, like AMS ads, Amazon Marketing Services ads, like headline search and stuff like that. Like all the different things that Amazon would make money from, thinking that, well, the more money I make them, the more likely they're going to be to want to put me at the top of the list. And then I would just work it out mathematically and say like, right, okay, if I can get this product to be ranked number 1 by the 5 main keywords that I'm looking at, then I'm estimating my sales will be this, which means that my profit will be £5,000 a month. And I want to break even in 3 months' time. So I'm going to allocate £15,000 budget to launching this product. And like a lot of my mates who said like, oh, how do I start an Amazon business? I'm like, well, you're joking. It's not like a 10-minute conversation. But you need to just understand that you're going to have to spend a lot of money to get where you want to be these days. And are you willing, if I said to you that I will give you £5,000 every month in 3 months' time with a 50% chance of it coming off, but you have to give me £15,000 now, would you do it? And they'd all be like, never. I'd be like, well, and that's the mindset that you've got to get in, is that you've got to be able to risk it to win. So, and I think that only a profitable business that has 9 other products where the money is coming in, and it's like, it's funny, isn't it? When it's your business's money, it's not really your money. And so you don't really worry about it as much. It's ridiculous, really, because you could, in theory, take that out of the business. But I guess that's where got me to where I am now, like having that risk mindset.
I almost see it like a video game sometimes. Like the money going in isn't, especially when it's the business's money, it's kind of just like points that are sitting there or a resource, and you can spend it. Like I'm a massive nerd. Like I play video games stuff all the time, and like, yeah, you can just like, you get your gold or your wood or whatever like that, and you just spend it. And that's literally this with a business. You just stock up on all this cash. And yeah, you could spend it, but then you could just keep growing it. It's just fun.
Yeah, I know. But it's proven, isn't it? Because that's why casinos swap your money for chips. Because if you have a stack of chips in front of you, it doesn't feel like it's your money. Whereas if you literally had your cash sitting in front of you, and every time you put more cash into the middle of the table, you can see your cash disappearing. So it's like, I guess it's similar. Gambling and running a business, pretty much.
Well, like playing poker. I mean, making educated bets rather than just sticking it all on black 22 and just but that's one thing you touched on there, like the actual cost of getting started. A lot of people, when you go on YouTube, will just be like, look at me, look at my Lamborghini. You can be like me, like you can start on $50 or $100, $500. It's like, honestly, you can't. Like all the really successful sellers that I speak to, nobody's done it like that. Like for me and my friends, we got kind of lucky initially, but I put kind of 10 grand in when when that was so much money. Like that was years of savings, even through uni when I worked. Like I worked the whole way through uni. And then when that worked, I kind of doubled down and went to the bank. And you can't get a loan for a business, especially when it's new. And so I was like, oh, can I get a personal loan? Yeah, sure. Like they were kind of like almost pushing it on me. And I was like, oh, well, what can I get a loan for? I don't know, a car. I was like, oh, cool, I'll get a car. Like, well, how much can I get a loan for? Well, what car do you want? I was like, I don't know. What? And then in the end, they just give me 25 grand. And like the interest rate was ridiculous as well. I think it was like 16%. But I kind of, with that money, then we just placed a few like really big orders, and kind of, yeah, it was like, again, that was like the best investment ever. But you can't do it on the cheap, and that was a huge risk. Like if I
think I was quite lucky because, as I say, I remember the first order I placed was like £750 on a credit card, and that was for like 50 units just to test that this theory would work. And when that did work, then I just put more and more orders on the credit card, and remember like maxing out like a few different credit cards and just risking it. But at the same time, I had like a 50k job on the side. So on the side, like that was my main income. And it came to the point where like I was earning good money through my work, and I had my company car and that, and I liked my lifestyle. But then the business was like almost getting to the point where I thought, if I like stopped work and put full-time effort into this, I reckon I could quickly get up to the point where I was earning the same amount of money and live off the beach, the dream.
4-hour work week.
Yeah. Get a wet laptop every day. And and so I decided that, well, after talking to my wife as well, I said, I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quit my job, and I'm going to go full-time and like really get into this. And so I didn't really invest any money, so to speak, up front. I invested a lot of like risk in terms of like taking away my full-time income, and that would be very hard to get back because like I'd taken a long time to get to that point. So I sort of did put money in, but I didn't put cash in. And then when we then built up that first one, and then I sold that, that then formed the base to then put money into the next one. But I don't think I put loads of money in, to be honest. But as you say, I think it's a lot harder to do these days.
Yeah.
I think you do need a decent wedge of cash behind you in order to like get it off the ground, basically. And then, like I say, once you've got a couple of SKUs that are bringing in a consistent like £4,000 or £5,000 a month or whatever, then it can afford to be putting deposits on new orders and to be able to then spend money on advertising, and just don't take money out of the business unless you absolutely have to. Like we lived like probably for the first year from when I quit my job to when we got the second business up and running, we lived like hand to mouth almost. Like it's funny when you look at it, but like we really did invest a lot of our like personal incomes that we would have been able to just splurge into growing the business up. So just depends on what lifestyle you want to live now versus what lifestyle you want to have in like 5-10 years time.
It's amazing, isn't it? Because it feels like going through that hardship makes it feel more deserved. I feel like to know that I forced myself to live hand to mouth. Like it's kind of satisfying to get to the end and be like, yeah, that was.
But going back to like when you talk to your friends, and like your friends quickly realize that like he's buying nice cars and he's upgraded his house and like he's obviously doing well. And then they're like, they know you sort of run a business and they know you sell stuff online, but they don't really know exactly the ins and outs of it. And they sort of come out the woodwork like little minions who want to like learn from you sort of thing. And so I had no worries, and like I would go to the pub and like would have a couple of pints, and like I must have spoke to like 5 or 10 people who wanted to learn how to do it. But it all comes down to like they didn't want to risk it.
Yeah.
They don't want to. They've got a job and they're really unhappy in it, and you're just saying to them that like you can definitely have a better lifestyle by being your own boss and having your own company, but there is a big risk to this in that you quit your job or you do this alongside your job, you'll have basically no free time for at least a year. And are you willing to lose that? No.
Yeah.
And
which
it's
is
like,
mad,
well,
isn't it?
Then there's no point in having this conversation.
Yeah. We did that. Like, I think I was quite lucky that my kind of best friends were my business partners, like that we could kind of then talk about it and stuff all the time. But our other friends, like we tried to get them to do it, and we were like, but look how well we're doing. We're probably more explicit about it and than you were, than just like upgrading your house. We'd be like, look, we're doing really well. Like you guys should really be doing this. And they just went, no, I'm not interested in that. Like I'm just happy going out.
I think it takes a certain mindset though. Like some people are like genuinely driven for like huge success, and they're like constantly looking for new challenges, and they're constantly looking for something to be able to like really like get their mind like working on. And I think that's the type of person that I am, and that's the type of person that you are by the looks of it. And I think that other people like tend to like the same sort of repetitiveness, and they like to know that they've got a what's it called, like a not a suitable job, like something that's like consistent, like a consistent job that they know is like secure,
stable.
Stable income. And that's exactly how I see it. I almost like see this little picture in my brain of like, here's sustainable, like suitable income A. And it's like, it's dead reliable. It always comes in every single month. You'll never get more, but you'll never get less either. And here's business option B. And it's like a complete, like this, the graph goes all over the place. And it's like 1 month you could like actually end up where you can't even like eat anything apart from beans on toast. And then the next month you could be going to the Lamborghini dealer, and you could be renting one to then tell all your mates that you have a Lamborghini and then sell them a load of courses. So yeah, I think it's risk and reward for me. And I think going back to the gambling thing, I do like a bit of a gamble as well. And I think that almost like helps you to push on as a business, in that you know that nothing is going to be 100% certain, and that even though like these courses are out there and they're telling you that you can definitely make it and you don't need to invest hardly any money at all, even in the back of your brain, the people who buy these courses must understand that it's extremely unlikely that you're going to get the same results as what they do.
Yeah.
But if you go into it with that mindset of that this is probably not going to work, then it probably won't work. Whereas if you go into it with the mindset of I'm going to do everything I possibly can to make myself one of these people that in the next version of the course, they're the ones that are getting showcased, then yeah, it's probably going to give you a better chance of actually making it work.
And
So
I also wonder with ASM or Amazing Selling Machine that because of the price tag, not necessarily the content's really good, but I have seen a lot of free content these days that says exactly the same thing. But that price tag, like you're committing to pay $5,000, you don't want to do that and feel like you've been ripped off. It's kind of like the Tony Robbins courses that people do where they pay like 10 grand. They come out of it really happy. And it's like, well, you've committed to making that change. Yeah.
That's the other thing, isn't it? It's like if they gave you all that information as a free course, and it's 12 weeks that I did, and it was like the drip feed years, and it is literally like you needed to do at least 10 hours a week in order to keep up with it, and just like watching the lessons and doing the exercises and doing all the research and that. So that's 120 hours you're going to have to put in. If they gave that away for free, I don't think many people would do it. I don't think everyone would get through the whole 120 hours. Whereas when you pay $5,000 for it, you want to watch every single lesson, including all the bonuses and everything.
Yeah.
So then you've got more chance of actually succeeding because you've gained all the knowledge that you need in order to make this a success. So
did you
a decent idea to put a price tag on it?
Did you ever think of doing something else other than Link My Books after you got obviously a nice capital, big pile of cash basically sitting there from selling the business. When you then started the second Amazon business or Link My Books, were there any other things you thought about?
Not really. I think that I've always been like interested. I really liked Amazon, but I got a little bit sick of like the repetitiveness of like launch a product and then look for another product and then build it up. Like I was good at doing it, but it got to the point where my heart just wasn't in it anymore. And that was the point I knew, right, okay, I need to sell this before it starts to taper off. It needs to be still in the upward trajectory. But at the same time, I liked the Amazon arena, and I liked that the community was so closely knit, and that they have all these groups, and that like, I don't know, it was like a nice little area to work in. And we already had this like joke about that we could make a better version of some of the competitor products that are out there. And it got to the point where I thought, I really like this area, and I feel like I'm quite good at having a lot of knowledge around the accounting side of things, although I'm not an accountant myself. I feel like because I ran a 7-figure Amazon business and I had 7 VAT registrations around Europe, and I'd sort of like, my accountant was good, but they were a traditional like brick and mortar accountant. They were more than happy to use their CPD points to like learn new things that they needed in order to keep up with the ins and outs of Amazon. But I wanted to like know for sure that I was getting things right. So I did tons and tons of research myself. And I got to the point where I thought, I've got a load of knowledge around Amazon accounting. I've got a load of knowledge around Amazon in general. I've got a friend who is a software developer who's also an Amazon seller. This is like crying out for someone to make a better version of products that are out there already and to focus on the UK market. And so it just felt like all the stars were aligned, sort of thing, they say. And I think that I don't think there would have been anything else that we would have made. We probably would have made some sort of like app for Amazon sellers. But I think that thinking about it from an Amazon seller's point of view, where when I was making my products, I try to always think of like, how can I make the best products that have got the biggest barrier to entry for new sellers? And I always used to go for like heavier, larger items that were like just less than oversized, so that like if someone got the packaging wrong, that's it, they're in oversized, and now they're paying much higher fees than what I am, and they can't compete on price, etc. And it was the same sort of thing with the software. Like there's loads of softwares out there that do reviews. There's loads of softwares out there that do automated feedback. Like they are just on a race to the bottom in price. And the only way to differentiate yourself is to truly have something that solves an issue that other people are going to really struggle to do. And I think that that's where we've sort of positioned ourselves in terms of we are, when you think about UK businesses who are selling on Amazon, the only place you would want to go would be Link My Books, because we know we're shit, so to say.
Yeah,
I think that people out there might not.
And I have to say, when we spoke a few months back, like I speak to obviously a lot of accountants when we're interviewing people to work at e-commerce accountants and sellers all the time. Like you definitely do know your stuff with that. Like I was thoroughly impressed, like more than most accountants that I speak to, especially the kind of the EU side of things, that it's very technical and quite tricky. And I think that's kind of what gave me the faith to be like, all right, we'll start using Link My Books. Because when I originally used one of your competitors, I didn't. They kind of were just like, well, no, we deal with this one bit and not that. You deal with that. And I was like, oh, okay. And I think I said to you, like, we actually originally, we started building our own tool because Link My Books wasn't around, and we were like, we're going to do this. And I think if I had access to a developer who had more time, maybe because we would have tried, like, kind of basically appeared on the market probably at a very similar time to you, because we were so close. And in the end, it was just like, oh, you guys came along. Your pricing was like pretty reasonable compared to the competitors. So I was like, oh, there's probably no more, like, should we just focus on something else and spend our time elsewhere?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I think you smashed it really with all of that.
It's funny though, because at the moment, actually this morning and yesterday, I was focusing on, I'm writing a new ebook on like the 5 biggest things to avoid in order to not overpay VAT as an Amazon seller. And it's like, when you say like, you know more than most accountants out there, like, I know that I even sometimes think that myself, and think that, there's so many accountants that we speak to who come on board and who are either helping a client or who want to use our services in order because they've got an Amazon client, who I'm educating them and not the other way around. And that's not to make me sound big-headed. That is just because Amazon is so extremely complex in terms of they'll store your inventory all around Europe, and that completely changes your tax liabilities. And just because an order happens on Amazon Germany doesn't mean it's dispatched from Amazon Germany and the dispatch country comes into it. Then you've got business sales and consumer sales. And then you've got pre-Brexit and post-Brexit transition periods. And you've got Amazon maybe collecting some VAT on some sales and not on other sales. It's like, it's a complete minefield. Whereas like, because we literally live and breathe that, we are like really hot on these subjects. And so I just thought, there's not really anything out there that's like a comprehensive guide of all the ways that people actually lose money by overpaying their VAT without even knowing it. So I'm going to put together a little guide, and that's going to be going on the website probably next week. And I think that in itself is going to be something where even accountants will pick it up and think, Nick, I've been doing this wrong and been costing our client money. And now if we do it this way, we're going to end up saving them so much VAT. And that's where I sort of see this going, is that if we can convince people and show people that although you have to pay a fee to use Link My Books, it'll be far outweighed by the amount of VAT you'll actually end up saving. So we should, in theory, end up paying for ourselves in not only the amount of money that you're going to save on VAT, but then also thinking about the amount of time that you're going to save actually just automating all of this. So yeah, that's basically where I'm thinking about taking it next.
Yeah, and well, I'm interested to see the new version of the ebook, because the original one, I remember seeing that must have been over a year ago now, and being like, yeah, this guy gets it. Like there were all the key points that when clients sign up with us, that their accountant does wrong, like from treating the sales as, coming into the bank rather than gross before it hits the bank and stuff. So yeah, looking forward to the next version. See what I'm missing.
This is going to be like a level 2 ebook sort of thing, because that's going to be we've got the first one, which is like the 11 bookkeeping mistakes that Amazon sellers make. And that's all around like using the summary sheets and like accounting for all the income as gross and like various little mistakes. And we've sort of touched on the few VAT ones. But then now with Brexit having like completely changed things, it was just, we get so many questions around that. And obviously we've updated all of our systems to deal with that. But it's just a case of like putting them all in the same place and making it so that someone can literally just go through and be like, step by step, right, okay, this is what you're doing now, probably this is why that's wrong, this is what you should do, and this is what you need to do now in order to resolve that. And I think that it's almost going to be, you'll need both. So you'll need, if you're a basic Amazon seller who's never done any real bookkeeping before, or you're sort of like just using the summary sheets, then you'll probably read the 11 mistakes that people are making. And then once you understand that, then you'll probably go on to the next one, which will be all the ways that you can avoid overpaying VAT. So I think it'll be a good
point. Sorry to talk over you. Key point, not to avoid paying VAT. You can get in trouble if you say that.
Yeah. Avoid overpaying VAT, sorry. Not tax evade at all, no.
What was I about to say there? One thing for accountants to come to their defense, VAT itself is incredibly technical. Like we're obviously talking about one aspect of it, which is for Amazon sellers. I do feel for accountants, because if you don't specialize and kind of deal with this one area, you just don't know, because the VAT treatment for like properties, for restaurants, for drugs, for like all these different things, and that's pharmaceutical drugs, are all completely different. And there's loads of different rules, like digital sales, and you guys probably experienced that as a software. It's also different, and it's not just a case of, oh, it's 20%. It's like, where's the customer? Who's the customer?
No, I completely agree. And I don't mean to have a dig at accountants in general. I just mean that it is quite common now that we get accountants who come to us who are then asking us sort of like questions around how does all of this work. And it's not so much to show that like we know more than them. It's more that it is just extremely complex when it comes to Amazon's business model. It works for them. It's like they just leave you to sort of like deal with all of the mass of admin that they are just creating for you without you even really knowing. And like a lot of people just bury their heads in the sand and just they're getting it so wrong, and they're just waiting for HMRC to then come along and be like, well, you've been doing this wrong all the time. So it's like there's two bad things that can come out of it. One is that you overpay VAT, so you're just paying a lot of VAT completely unnecessarily because you weren't actually supposed to be paying it. And then two is that you underpay VAT, and then HMRC found out before you do, and then they slap a load of penalties on as well. So now you've just paid the VAT that you should have paid, and you've paid a load of penalties, and you've probably had to hire an accountant who gets a specialist in to come and help you deal with the audit. It's just like,
and the penalties can start at 30% of whatever was due. So you're paying a huge plus interest on the late payment. It's ridiculous.
And I think they scale them up as well, don't they? So they have like 30% if they discover it and it was a genuine mistake, and then it's a higher percentage if it was they discover it and you knew that it was a mistake but you just didn't correct it, and then even higher if like you knew it was a mistake and you try to cover it up and then they find it out. It's like, so
deliberate, careless,
and then as soon as you're flagged on that, they'll be on you every year and they'll be checking everything. So you want to be you want to fly under the radar and not have to be like investigated every year by them. Just doesn't make sense.
Exactly. So you mentioned that you sold your business because you got kind of bored of it, I suppose. What are you able to talk about the type of products you sell or sold, or what the brands were?
So I've got a non-disclosure agreement with the two brands that are sold, so I can't tell you the actual brand names, but I can tell you that the first one was in the swimming niche. It's like a swimming product. And then the second one was we sold fitness products and also camping style products and also beauty products. That one was sort of like, instead, I know everyone says like, I'll build up a brand and like keep all your products in brand and keep them all connected, and then people can buy like multiple of your products and that. But I'm not really convinced that Amazon is the marketplace for you to then sell someone, I don't know, a keyboard and then they also buy your mouse. I don't think customers think like that on Amazon. They'll search for stainless steel keyboard and they'll buy number one position stainless steel keyboard, and then they'll search for wireless mouse and they'll buy number one position wireless mouse. So for me, it was like, instead of going down the route of building up a brand, let's just go after products that are like super profitable that no one else is going to look at because they're either too heavy or too big. And so that's why we ended up sort of like having 3 trademarked brands all running under the same sort of like company. And we only had like 10 products or something like that. So they didn't really have many products in each brand, but it just worked. And it made more sense at the time to go after like high margin products rather than trying to, because if you think about it, if you start off in a particular niche and then you get a really good blockbuster product that like kills it, and then you want to build that brand, then now your product research is completely limited to that area only. You can't now look at like all the profitable products of Amazon. Now you're looking at only the products that are in that category, and you've already found the most profitable one because you've got it already. So now you're like down to the second most profitable and third and the fifth, and it's like, I'm not really sure I agree with that. So I went for like scatterbrain and did everything. But then when I came to sell the company, my partner did the opposite. He kept everything in brand, all the products were linked, and he got a slightly better multiple than what I did, like 2x more per month or something like that. And they put that down to the fact that they had like a much more profound brand. with like, they had 10 or 15 products as well, but they were all on one brand. Mine were like 10 or 15 products scattered across 3.
It sounds like we might have competed on some products, because our third company was very similar, like the scattergun approach. When we would we felt like we could just do anything and just any sort of product. And we did those sort of niches, like the like beauty and camping were 2 of the ones. I'll be interested one day to pick your brain to see if if I can get it out of you what they were. You said you got 3 brands. Did you have them all in the same Amazon Seller Central account, or did you get 3 separate accounts?
No, I just kept them all in the same account. Yeah. So it was one legal entity, one Amazon account. Well, one Amazon account in Europe, one Amazon account in North America, and 3 brands.
Because a lot of people I see get quite hung up over making sure the brand name matches the seller account. I don't know actually if that's still a thing these days that Amazon show it, but they used to show like who the seller was, what the name was, and that they were like, no, it has to be like the brand name, and they were worried about the conversion rate if it wasn't, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. There's probably some truth in that. I can see that, but to be honest, I'm sure I read some research at one point that suggests that like a typical Amazon seller searches for something, then 80% of people buy number 1, and then it like goes down and down and down. When you pass position 3, it's like basically no one looks at you. And then when they get in the listing, it's like 80% of people are on mobile, and all they do is flick through the first 3 images and read the title, and then they decide if they want to buy. So you're only then talking about that very small 20% of the audience who are then going to actually look at anything apart from the title and the first 3 pictures. And therefore, are they really going to scroll around and then see that it's sold by company X and your brand is brand B sort of thing? So there's probably some truth in it, but it wasn't a big enough reason to then have the hassle of separating them out. Because if you have separate seller accounts, then Amazon can be a bit funny. Like, they don't like you having more than one account, and there's like a lot of rumors that like they'll approve it for you, and then later on they'll like just randomly take all your accounts away. And like if one of your accounts gets in trouble, or you sell that one brand and then someone else takes it over and then they get in trouble, and now your account is linked to your account, and then your account gets taken down. So it's like, it doesn't seem worth it.
Well, and as you said, I suppose if you were getting to rank 1 and rank top of the page and still selling, clearly it wasn't impacting people that much if they're just
80-20 rule. Like I follow the 80-20 rule in basically every decision that I make, and I just thought, 80% of our sales will come from them, so forget about the other 20%. And I sort of thought exactly like you in terms of the scatterbrain, because I just thought that, but neck, like I can launch products and within 3 weeks they're like ranked at the top of the search terms that I'm targeting, and I can make that profitable within like 2 or 3 months. I'm just going to launch every product that I can possibly get my hands on that I can make like decent money on. And so I then stopped just looking in my particular niche, and that's when I started looking at the beauty products. And I went down the route of doing like an electronic based beauty product. It's probably as much detail as I can give. And I just thought, that's going to be a massive barrier to entry, because no one else wants to do stuff that's got batteries in. And so I'm going to make sure that I get like everything down to the T, and like make sure I pass all the assessments and everything, and got in. And then that was a massive product. And in the US, like at Black Friday, I'm pretty sure we sold like 15,000 units of that one product, like over that weekend. It was absolutely mental, mate. And the profits on them, like everyone else puts their prices down for Black Friday, I was putting them like up. I was like up in the price, because I could see that like I had loads of stock, but it was just when you sell 15,000 units, that soon changes. So I was checking it like 3 or 4 times every hour and just changing the price up and up and up and up and up. And I think we started at something like $17.99, and by the end of Black Friday weekend, we're at $34.99, and we're still selling like hundreds and hundreds every day.
That's insane. I mean, we used to put our prices up to kind of slow down demand. When you place a reorder to make sure you don't run out, and you're like, the shipment's going to arrive in 10 days, like bump it up by $1. And then sometimes like that, because you're more expensive, people started to buy it more. We once put a product up to, we had 2 left in stock. So we put the price up to $99.99, and it was this like cat dangler thing. And I know it was a box of cat toys. And somebody bought it. Basically, one person bought it at $99.99, and I remember turning around, like I was on the train with my business partner Eddie, and I was like, "Did you like? Oh, good one! Like you placed the fake order. Like I thought he'd done it as a joke, and because we'd always, I think, what? No, yeah. I was like, no, of course. And he was like, yeah, good one, mate. And like we both didn't believe, we both thought that the other one had placed the order, like, and then when it came through, we were like, oh, that was real. That somebody actually paid that. Like, I can't believe. Like, I felt really guilty. Like, part of me was tempted to refund it, but then I was like, oh, we kind of, you chose to buy it. And then we then went and had a nice lobster. We went to Burger and Lobster and treated ourselves to dinner. That was when that happened. You know, you mentioned you sold your businesses. Do you ever go back and kind of stalk them? Do you ever like have a look and see how they're doing on Amazon? Are they still going on Amazon?
I did used to, because when I sold the second business, I actually sold 100% of the shares, and then I had like an agreement in place, like a profit share agreement. So I was getting 10% of the profit in exchange for doing 2 hours a week to help them to continue like running the business, which was like a mega deal for me. I thought like this is mint. But when I look back at it, I think, well, they were an American-based company. They didn't understand PAN-EU. They didn't understand the VAT. So they basically had me on as an expert / doing all the bookkeeping person. And I continued to run the business as if it was mine for the UK part. They took over the US part, and I continued to do that until, well, actually until they sold it again. So they sold it again, and they sold it again after like 18 months. So I continued to like sort of consult for them, helping them out with like all sorts of questions. I didn't launch any more products. I didn't like expand the business out at all. I just helped them to like run it day in, day out. And so to speak, I sort of like kept an eye on them anyway, naturally. And then now that they've sold it again, I haven't really checked it that much, no, because I'm so busy with Link My Books, to be fair. So
yeah, I just imagine that there's that like feeling of, should I have carried on? Shouldn't I? I know now if we sold ours, because we've run them into the ground, I probably would only look just to see if the one brand that of all of them that I really like, I really want to see it succeed. So I'd look for that. But I know that if I'd sold them like 5 years ago, I would have had that constant, like almost like a FOMO. Did I?
Yeah. Well, I know that when I sold it, and then after a year, like it was still doing as well as it did. It hadn't like really gone up. It hadn't really gone down. It was still chugging along. I thought, if we just waited another year, we could have had more money out of the business, and then we could have sold it for probably roughly the same price. But I'm not sure that is exactly true, because the other thing that came with it is that in that year, there was like products getting suspended. There was competitors putting in complaints. There was like, we had patent infringement like claims and all the usual rubbish that comes with Amazon. And that just reinforced my decision as to, this is exactly why I sold, because I was so sick of dealing with all these constant like firefighting everything and making loads of money, but firefighting every day and like never really knowing whether tomorrow was the day where everything was just going to burn and you were going to have nothing left. So it never really, even if they had continued to like grow and grow and grow and grow and grow, I got out of it for not just the money, for like the actual sanity as well. So now having like a pot of money that I know is mine, and it's like just sitting investments, and it's like it's growing naturally and I have to do nothing with it, versus having to getting good money out of the business every month, but never really knowing how many more months it's going to last. Like, it's a total no-brainer for me.
So you don't regret it?
No, not one bit. And it's the same with my partner as well. He always says that as well, but he was different. He like sold it. He did his 60-day of help on Skype, and then he never spoke to them ever again. Never even looked.
Wow.
Yeah.
No. Was he not offered 10%?
No, I think he wanted that. No. So yeah. But I think that I made the right choice, and I think he made the right choice as well. And I think that now looking back, I would have probably even done it a bit earlier and like took a little bit less money, started Link My Books a bit earlier, and got ahead in the market. Like in a year's time, I see this being quite big. So I think that we're in a good position to make good money again.
And moving on to Link My Books, did you you mentioned that Pete was the developer? Did you have any sort of development, any experience in software development, or are you completely sales?
Yeah, mine was completely like sales and sort of the ideas generation, I would sort of call my bit. As the years have gone by, I've sort of like, I don't like not knowing things and not understanding how they work. So I now know how to code. I use Visual Studio. Like I can code like to a certain degree. I can make websites and do HTML, CSS, like JavaScript, but all the back end stuff is done by him. Well, I do some of it, but like only very, very small changes that I know that aren't going to break something. And I'll always put them in a new branch and then like deploy them and then like, has it worked? Has it not worked? Oh, it's worked. Great. Okay, now I'll right. Okay. So, but it's I like learning new things. So as soon as I got the opportunity, and like I'd finished all the marketing side of things and like all the actual design of how it would look and how it would work and what customer journeys would be, etc., etc. Then I started to think about, okay, how can I actually help out on the coding side of things? But yeah, it's mainly done by Pete.
And what did you find more challenging, physical products or SaaS?
Well, they're both hard. I think that I probably work roughly the same hours. I always thought like, oh, I'll be able to have this as like a lifestyle business and finally be able to like just do whatever I like whenever I like. And I've come to the conclusion that I don't even want that. Like, I'm not even sure I really want to like just be able to work 2 hours in the morning and then do nothing for the rest of the day, like go out on my mountain bike or go and play paddle. I don't know if you've played that. It's quite big over here. And I think that I actually like working hard. Like I do 50-hour weeks, I'm not gonna lie. Like I get up, he's based in Australia, so I get up at like 5:30. I'm speaking to him at 6:30 my time, and that's like 4:30 in the afternoon for him in the summer and 2:30 in the afternoon for him in the, no, other way around, 2:30 in the summer, 1:30, 4:30 in the winter. And then I'll work right through until 5 on the dot. And then at 5 on the dot, I shut my lid. And then I don't work night times. I don't work weekends. I've always had that rule. I think if my family's awake on a weekend, I don't work. I sometimes get up a bit early and like go in the office and do a couple of hours before they wake up. But as soon as they're awake, it's family time. So I think that, I can't remember what the original question was now. I've completely gone off track.
It was which one's more challenging? But
I think that they're both equally as difficult, to be honest. I think that they both require your constant attention. I definitely feel like from a sanity point of view, the SaaS is much more appealing because it's like you get a customer to agree with your way of thinking and persuade them to buy your product, you get a one-time sale. You get a customer to think about in the same way as you do as your product and get them to subscribe to your service. Now they're paying you every single month and they're getting the benefit over and over and over again. So I think that in a sort of like when you're doing your hard work and then you're getting a reward in terms of the customer then thanking you and leaving amazing reviews and then you get your payment every month, I think you get a lot more reward for your effort you put in with a SaaS, yeah.
And do you remember getting your first SaaS subscriber and how long did that take? Because that must be quite a payoff, right? Like you build this app and then you just got, what happens? Did you just sit there? Did you do a soft launch?
You want to say, don't you? Like build it and they will come. And it's like, that's definitely not true.
I think there's a bit of truth to it. I mean, sometimes like once you need like a bit of Google ranking and stuff, but once it's there and people see it, they do. But yeah, go on.
Well, what we did was like we built the app in the background and then I made the mistake of like, we knew the domain was available and I'd sort of like, I'd started the trademark applications and that because we always like to like protect our IP and that. And when the domain was there and I just thought, oh, no one's going to really take that. And I waited and waited and waited. And then eventually I took it and then we just owned the domain and we built out the app in the background. And then like probably 2 weeks before we were ready to like start taking in some potential beta users and we're going to make a little page like join the beta club and all that. And then I started designing the website out, made it all out, and then realized I was like, oh yeah, now we'll have like no Google ranking at all. And it's like a 2-week-old website. And so we weren't even ranking for like our own brand name. So you would search Link My Books and we wouldn't even appear like at all. It would be like 6, 7 pages you would look through and we still weren't appearing. And I was like, oh man, we've totally messed this up. So then we went down the route of instead, like, because we had good connections within the community of Amazon, and we just sort of like put messages out to friends in the arena and got them to sort of like try it out, and then them to tell friends. And it just sort of spread naturally. And then eventually our brand name started to rank on Google, and we started to run like some small Facebook ads and like putting posts in the seller forums until like, as soon as you posted like 5 or 6 things referring to the same brand, Amazon then ban you from posting anything more for 1,000 years. I should hunt out the email. It actually specifically says like, you are banned from posting in the seller community for 1,000 years.
No way. Is it?
Who would try? Oh well, I'll get 1,001. They'll come back. So
I feel like
so, yeah.
you need to leave a note for your successor in 1,000 years' time to
Yeah,
actually
exactly,
come back.
yeah.
We're back.
3021, you can repost stuff in seller forum. So yeah, so we can't post anything there anymore. So I think that it was just like we wanted the snowball to take off, and we tried to hit it from all angles. But you know what it's like, if you Facebook ad and try and say like, we have this new way of getting your data out of Amazon and putting it into your accounting platform, I'm not sure I would trust it. I would just think, well, what else are you doing with my data? And do you really know what you're doing? And you're a new company and I've never ever heard of you. And it's like, now 2 years on, our best marketing still is word of mouth. It's like we get probably 95% of our customers organically who are literally just going to Google, searching our brand name. And that only comes from people who have told other people. So even though we work hard on like Facebook ad campaigns and running stuff like that, it still accounts for such a tiny proportion of our actual users that it's a financial product at the end of the day. I'm sure you find the same, Joe. It's like, you can sing and dance all day on your YouTube channel about how good your platform is, but if someone else who knows your customer then recommends you, it's a million times better. So that's why we then went down the route of like focusing on reviews and getting people to leave a review for us on the Xero marketplace, on QuickBooks. We've also started using Capterra, which is like an app sort of place where people leave reviews, and then letting them sort of like sell for us. But it's taken a long time for us to get to the point where like, I do feel like we are almost now getting to the point where if you are a UK business and you sell on Amazon, you've probably heard of us, or someone that you know has probably heard of us, and that we are now sort of like the go-to for UK sellers. And I think that's always been the goal initially. We sort of think in concentric circles, like the first circle is UK businesses who are VAT registered, who sell on Amazon. That's our first sort of target. Then outside of that would be like UK businesses who sell on Amazon and eBay, who might be VAT registered. They might be VAT registered in multiple countries. And then outside of that, it's like US, UK, and Australian businesses who sell on Amazon and on eBay. And then outside of that, it's like, you know, the world further.
And so is there any reason that you couldn't target US sellers? Like, and I guess I'm asking this more out of interest because I don't deal with them and deal with their bookkeeping. Like, couldn't Link My Books work for them? Can you connect, Amazon US to Xero? Like, is Xero different for them because they won't have that? Like,
it's slightly different. We do, yes, and we already have like hundreds of US customers, hundreds of Australian customers, and I think that it's actually easier because the VAT is the most complicated part. But that in itself was like almost our unique selling point, and the reason why we went into the hardest niche, so to speak, the UK businesses with VAT complications and pan EU, was because if we cracked that, then we knew that the rest would be easier. And there's other solutions out there that were already doing a good job of those things. So like, why rock a boat sort of thing? But yeah, I think that the US and Australian customers use different tax formats. So like in Australia, it's all GST and BAS and stuff like that. And so we have a good understanding around that now. And we've worked with a lot of the like accountants who are running e-commerce style accountant businesses over there to like find out how they want it to work. And we've managed to get it to a place where they are happy with it and they enjoy using it. And it definitely saves them a load of time. And the same in the US as well. But we still mainly focus on the UK businesses because that is our bread and butter. Like probably 70% of our customers are from the UK, and then the rest come from like Australia and the US and around Europe. but I still think that we can deliver the biggest benefits and the most time saving and money saving to the UK customers. And it just, with us being based in the UK and the customer services run from the UK, it just makes sense for us to really focus hard on them until, as I say, we've like totally filled that concentric circle and we've monopolized that market. Then we'll move on to the next one and we'll continue to take over the world, you know.
You mentioned this taking over the world. There's when we first spoke several months ago, and it's early 2021 now. I feel like 2020, everyone will know, is a crazy year. 2021 has already been a bit nuts, but there's been a lot of changes in terms of accounting and Xero, or accounting and VAT, sorry, and also different platforms. I mean, eBay changed their payment provider, didn't they, at the end of 2020? And that was when we first started speaking. What did you guys do there? Because, well, yeah, I'll let you tell it, because I think it's quite impressive.
Yeah, so I think that in terms of eBay, they used to do everything through PayPal. So someone would buy something on eBay, they would pay you directly to your PayPal account, and then at the end of the month, eBay would bill you for all your fees, probably to your PayPal account. And PayPal and Xero, and I think PayPal and QuickBooks had like a bank feed integration, which was sort of good and not good. Like, we still had lots of people back then who would whinge and say, like, can you not make something for PayPal? The PayPal integration with Xero is wick, and it's like, it doesn't really do the job we need it to do. And it was all to do with the fact that, yes, it fed in every single line, but it then didn't really tell them much detail about the sale in order to, like, where is it taxable? Is it a UK sale? Is it a sale that's going outside the UK? Is it going outside the EU? Is it a business sale? Is it a zero rated item? Is it a standard rated item? It was like, there was no details. So it was very hard for them to then account for it. So yes, the financial data was dumped in, but that was it. It was sort of like, it's just someone came at your house and just dumped a load of transactions and then was like, yeah, see you later. And they did nothing with it. So there was always demand for it, but we knew that eBay were changing the way they were going to do things, and they were moving towards this managed payments, because it was quite like well known in the industry. And so when we knew that it was going to go that way, it didn't make sense for us to make a PayPal integration that was better than Xero's own PayPal integration or QuickBooks' own. And so we just sort of like held off until we knew that, right, eBay payments is on the way. They've now got all the API documentation in place. We can now go in and be the first to market. And that's exactly what we did. We basically waited until that came out. When it did come out, we then immediately started working with some of the eBay sellers that we already knew and said, like, right, okay, we're going to work with your accounts to then make this all work. And then you'll get a discount in exchange for that. And then we just pushed forward. And I think it took us from the point where eBay like launched the documentation until we had a working prototype app. It was like 2 weeks. It took 2 weeks to develop that out, because we knew that we wanted to be first to market, and we knew that, like, there's lots of players out there. This is a huge market, and it's going to be like a bloodbath basically. So we went in and we did that within 2 weeks, and we launched, and then we went into beta and basically like allowed people to try it out for free until we had like ironed out all the bugs. And then that took like probably another 2 weeks. And then that was it. Like a month later, we were basically a live public application approved by eBay, approved by Xero, approved by QuickBooks, and like it was working, and it continues to. And we've taken on like hundreds and hundreds of eBay sellers since then. And people who've come on board have been like, oh, I didn't even know you were like, I didn't even know you did Amazon as well. Oh, I've got Amazon, I'm mint. So it's like, it's worked like an absolute charm, like. And I think that it just makes sense, because the way we did things for Amazon, where like you get a payout from Amazon every 2 weeks, and that's all your sales and fees and that included. And then eBay are now doing that with managed payments, where they take all the payments in themselves, and then they take off their fees, and then every day or every week, depending on how you have it set up, they pay you out an amount, which is the difference, just like Amazon does. And so it makes sense that you don't do that as a bank feed for individual sales. You do it as an invoice for each of those payouts, completely broken down.
I think that's amazing. Like 2 really hard weeks. And I know, because I spoke to you at the time and you were going flat out, and you then get that kind of huge benefit. And it's like we were talking about earlier. Why, like, yeah, it's a huge risk and it's a huge time kind of drain, but all that hard work actually then just pays off afterwards.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of buzz, right, as a business owner, that you get, that you're like, oh, I've done all of this. Like, I really actually enjoyed putting all that work in, because it just pays off, like, kind of massively.
We had prepped massively though. Like, we had already had like the majority of the system built out. We just basically needed to like dot the I's and cross the T's and make sure that all the API connections were going to work, and that we're pulling in the right information, and that it was going to work as we'd expected it to. So two weeks is maybe, like, if my partner hears this, he's probably going to kill me and say, like, I didn't expect it. So I think 2 weeks is probably like, that was the last changes that we needed to make. We'd already prepped most of the system to work. And obviously we had a lot of the ins and outs working already through doing it with Amazon. So we're not really reinventing the wheel there in terms of like all the interface and that. But yeah, it was a very quick turnaround for good reason, because we wanted to be first to market. And then when we came out, it was like 2 months later, and then one of the big competitors in the marketplace also launched eBay as well. So we were like,
do they make much of the, I suppose, the documentation available before the change happens? Because I feel like it was October off the top of my head, but I can't. Let's say it was the 1st of October that eBay changed that. Was it kind of that you found out about it, got access on the 1st, just like all the actual sellers did, or do they give kind of pre-access to some of the?
Yeah, so if you sign up as a developer, you can sign up to like their RSS feed, and then they'll basically like feed you all the information that's happening within the API. And when we started hearing more and more about that, they were going to add new APIs around managed payments, and then it started to come out in all the like blog publications around eBay, like saying that eBay were going to move towards that. Then we started working on that. And I think from July last year, they started migrating US sellers across to it. And then we knew that the UK sellers would come. So the eBay solution that we have works for any eBay marketplace, whether they're US, Australia, UK, whatever. But we wanted to wait until the UK sellers were getting pushed across before we started launching it. Otherwise, the UK sellers would come in and be like, oh, great, you've got an eBay integration. I'll bet you don't work with PayPal. Oh, right, okay. So, and we still get a bit of that now, but the vast majority of sellers now have been migrated across to eBay managed payments, and the rest are going to be done by the end of this year, apparently, according to eBay. So it made sense for us to work quickly there.
Amazing. So they kind of just force people to kind of search for your product, basically.
Yeah, and that's the other thing we did. We did a lot of SEO work. Like, because we were first to market, we had the opportunity to write like a couple of blog posts, and I made some videos. And like, if you search eBay managed payments to Xero on Google now, like my face comes up, my video comes up, like a couple of our blog articles come up, and it's all just about that we were there first. And I think that's like SEO. I don't really know the ins and outs of it, but I think when there's not much content that's sort of like is relevant, if your content is super relevant and being visited quite a lot, I'm guessing that Google want to show that. So.
Dan, I'm aware that it's kind of been about an hour and a half of your time, and your email's been pinging off, so you've probably got loads of stuff to kind of deal with. Looking one last thing, looking to the future, what can people expect from Link My Books? Have you got plans to grow it, or are you going to do like you've done with your previous businesses and sell it?
No, so at the moment, there's no plans to sell this, because this is a different business model in terms of it being like a recurring income. So we are well invested in this for the long term. And I think in terms of growing it, as I said at the very beginning, the name Link My Books, we've always thought about like, what are the other sources and destinations we can get from and to. So in the very near future, we've got Shopify is coming. That's actually currently going through the Shopify App Approvals process right now. We've got a working product. It's just, we've got to get it approved. So that apparently takes 6 to 8 weeks. We've been doing it for like 1 week. So we've got between 5 and 7 weeks left, I guess, before that goes into a public beta. And then people can sign up for that, try it out, help us iron out any bugs, and then continue using it. And then the next after that, we've got 2 things. One is Etsy, we're looking at as a marketplace, so another source. And then the second is, at the moment, we only really integrate with Xero and QuickBooks, and you have to have a Xero or QuickBooks account in order to have a Link My Books account that works. So there's been a bit of a workaround where if people don't have that and they use a spreadsheet, or they use something else like Cashflow or Sage or whatever, then they can connect a demo Xero account and then use our CSV download. what we're going to do is we're going to put a new thing in place where we're going to allow you to like skip connecting a Xero or QuickBooks account and opt for the CSV download only. So we'll still do all the same processing, and we'll basically produce you a CSV file, which then allows you to upload it into Cashflow or Sage or QuickBooks Desktop if you use the desktop version. And that's coming as well. So I reckon it'll probably be Shopify first, then the CSV thing, and then Etsy later in the year. And then I don't really know what's next. It's supply and demand. So the more and more people that ask for stuff, the more and more like effort we put into it, the faster up the roadmap it comes.
Well, I know Shopify will definitely make me and my team very happy. It's definitely the kind of one that's grown the most in the last year or so.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's kind of more straightforward, I think, than Amazon to process, but it'd be useful to save a bit of time. Etsy, however, I get the impression that they're absolute wide boys. Their fees and how they structure things are so vague, and yeah, I think you'll have I look forward to that, but yeah.
I know we've done a little bit of research into Etsy, and I think the stuff that we've come up with is that's exactly what people say. It's like, eBay is easy for me to do manually if I was going to do it, but Etsy, on the other hand, is a complete nightmare. So if you can sort that, that'd be great. So when people say things are easy, and then I'm thinking in my mind, well, actually eBay was rather complex in terms of getting it accurate, is not easy in my eyes. You do need something to automate a lot of it for you. So if they are then thinking that eBay is easy and Etsy is hard, I can only imagine how hard Etsy is.
Honestly, they're feel free to message me if you want how manual process that works. Yeah, like figuring that out was ridiculous. Brilliant.
Yeah.
All right then. Well, thanks so much, Dan, and speak to you soon. Cheers.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us. See you.
And there you have it. That's the story of Daniel Little and Link My Books. What did you think? If you've got any questions for myself or Dan, please let me know in the comments below. Don't forget, if you enjoyed the video, please show your appreciation by leaving a like and subscribing. And for anybody who's thinking of using Link My Books, I've got a referral code below. If you use it, send me an email. My email's there too, and I'll help you set it up. Thanks a lot. See you again.